both coxes, indicating that they're not yet quite ready. Stakemen allow the boats to go, and Cambridge at the top of your picture, Isis, and Goldie for Oxford down at the bottom of the screen. What's the thinking on this one, Chris?
I think Goldie on this occasion are very much favourites. Isis have been making changes in their boat right to the last minute, and Dominic Neary and Alex Ferguson actually were only introduced into the boat at the beginning of last week, having rowed in the Oxford lightweight boat.
So off they go on their 4 1/4 miles, and a lot of vocal encouragement, which will double and treble in volume in a little while once the senior crews come up to the start.
Certainly it's Goldie showing the early lead. Isis seem to steer very much away towards the Fulham side of the course. They set off. Goldie holding a comfortable half length.
Yes, there is the big Hammersmith left-handed bend opening up. That's Surrey on the left and Middlesex on the right. And the race, as you will see, turning out pretty much as predicted. Goldie went out to an early lead. They were a couple of lengths clear going under Hammersmith Bridge, and they've probably increased that somewhat now.
Yes, I think this race is going very much as was expected. This really shows the strength and depth that Cambridge have developed over the last 2 years. I think many observers thought that Cambridge's strength was really going to come into its own next year, because most of these boys are actually back for the next year as well.
The senior crews, of course, won't know what happens in this race until they get to the end of theirs. They didn't last year anyway know about the disqualification. Goldie now with 3 or 4 lengths advantage, plenty of clear water, so they can choose the best of the stream. Which is a gate coming up on their right.
Curiously enough, these two crews raced one another last weekend in the Head of the River race, which is a timed race, and Goldie actually only beat Isis by a second. But Goldie started right at the back on the bottom of the tide. Isis started at the front of the race with 400 competitors and gained all the advantages. I don't think any of the observers who knew much about tide thought that Goldie were only going to win by a second today. We were mentioning earlier about the strength of Cambridge's rowing and the use of college oarsmen. There are 2 college oarsmen in the middle of this crew who I think the Cambridge crews are very hopeful will find their way into the blue boat next year. Big, strong men. It's the one thing that Cambridge has lacked in recent years has been the powerhouse in the middle, which is certainly what Oxford have had and indeed continue to have today. And so they're trying to build up their strong men. But it's no good having strong men if they don't have good technique as well. These crews are rowing in absolutely perfect conditions. We see the tideway in all moods, but I must say this is really the very best.
Yes, they will have been preparing themselves over the last months for absolutely anything here. We've seen races rowed in something very close to sinking conditions, so mentally, physically, they have to be prepared for that. They've come out and found pretty much the conditions they would have chosen. Sun on the river. Beautiful spring day. Anyone trying to look for omens for the senior race in this reserve competition should be a little bit wary. It's not necessarily any guide to the outcome of what's to follow. During the last 15 years, when Oxford have won the boat race 14 times, Goldie have beaten Isis 7 times. The one year that Cambridge broke Oxford's dominance, 1986, Isis beat Goldie by 3 1/4 lengths. So this doesn't have any bearing in that sense on what's to follow.
So I think the main reason for that is that Oxford have been very fortunate in their intake of very talented freshmen in recent years who tend to take the rapid route straight into the blue bait. They don't necessarily go through the second crew at all. In an ordinary year, normally there are only perhaps a couple who make their progression through the second crews. I think maybe this current Goldie crew will be an exception. There are some really very talented oarsmen there. It's stroked by Tom Amies, who was a bronze medalist as a junior. Had a year off when he was away from school, but he's developed very well this year. Both the Cambridge crews, Cambridge and Goldie, bear the hallmark of Mark Leesy's coaching. It's very good technical crews. They're just very easy on the eye. Rowing is like many other sports. If you see it being done easily, it's probably being done well, and this is certainly true of these 2 Cambridge crews. They're rowing 2 or 3 strokes a minute less than Isis and actually going faster for it. That comes from very good togetherness.
Shouldn't be fooled by the perspective of that picture. We're looking down and slightly across the course, and that may well make those 2 boats look rather closer than they actually are. Once they come up abreast of us, I think the margin will be there to be seen, and we'll be able to calculate it a little more accurately.
Both crews using American boats, but by different makers. Cambridge actually the ones using odd oars this year. They've actually got slightly asymmetrical oars. The top half of the shaft is slightly shaved away. It's supposed to be more efficient in the water.
These are the blades that Oxford thought about and rejected, are they?
That's right. Barman there, Meterwell, the shortest man in either race at 5'9½", very unusually short in international or near international rowing terms.
So from the helicopter, as they approach the railway bridge at Barnes, and the last of the bends, this time round to the right, the margin is now clearly a good, well, what's that, 5 or 6 lengths perhaps. They'll go through the centre arch of Barnes. Certainly there haven't been any problems in this race for the umpire, Tom Carew-Hudson, who was an Oxford Blue a few years back.
Goldie are maintaining their rate. They're obviously going to try and increase the margin if they can.
All the side shows as well that are traditional to this event. Of launches following Isis and Goldie. And waiting for them, the finish at Chiswick. They'll be well into their celebrations by the time the senior crews arrive.
This is very definitely the way to row a boat race if you possibly can. Lengths in front, it all seems effortless and easy. You can row forever in these conditions. All power to Stephen Fowler, who rowed in the blue boat last year and didn't win his place this year, but has kept on rowing the second crew. Many lesser men have been known to give up in those circumstances. Cox, Vanessa Cook. Cox, the ladies' crew, women's crew, Cambridge last year.
Still keeping her men going, anxious to rub in their superiority by as big a margin as they can. when you're winning, and winning without serious pressure from behind, it doesn't look too agonising. Don't be fooled.
Isis are making a good effort there. They've kept their rate of striking, the number of strokes they're taking, higher than Goldie the whole way, and they don't seem to be dropping back very much further. Still about 4 to 5 lengths.
So coming towards the end of Isis versus Goldie, with Goldie well out in front, 6-7 lengths. That's the appetizer. The main race to come at 1:20 past.
Isis continue to battle on at 37. Not much cover between their strokes, but you've got to give it to them for guts. They're holding in there. Many anticipated a much bigger verdict even than this.
Four miles, 374 yards, the official distance, and Goldie celebrate, and it will be disappointment for Isis. Well beaten in the reserve race. What is still to come?
It's looked about 4 lengths.